After the continuous success of Godzilla, Eiji Tsuburaya, the famed special effects pioneer that helped shape Godzilla and tokusatsu at large, decided to take the next step in his career by opening his own production studio, Tsuburaya Productions. Obviously. The first project by Tsuburaya was Ultra Q, the most expensive show ever produced in Japan at the time. It was a television series that took a lot of inspiration from classic sci-fi television like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits. Tsuburaya initially intended for the show to have minimal monster action, as he didn't quite want to be pigeonholed as a monster guy. So in 1966, the first episode of Ultra Q aired. It was a monster show. Ultra Q was a name that was given to the show because ultra was a trendy word at the time, popular due to the Japanese Olympic gymnastics team in 1964 coining the term Ultra C, a reference to C being the highest level of difficulty for a routine. Ultra C then would reference that the team would go even further. The Q in Ultra Q stands for question. Together, that technically makes the show's title Ultra Question, which is pretty fitting in its own right. However, the show was originally called Unbalanced. I think that title is far more interesting. Don't get me wrong though, Ultra Q is a good title. It has this great sense of mystery to it. It's such a strange title that you feel some kind of compulsion to at least learn more about it, or even go out and actually watch the thing. Unbalanced gives off more of a mood though, you know? It tells you a lot about what kind of show you're going to be going into before you step inside. You get the impression that Unbalanced is a show where things aren't as they seem, where things are going to feel off and even disorienting. And that's all helped by the brilliant intro to the show. Ultra Q begins every episode with this scraping, loud noise and this mess of colors that slowly spiral into an understanding. A title. Ultra Q or Unbalance, either title would have had the same effect here. Your answer at the end of these spinning colors is no answer. You only get another question. The opening sequence, along with the trio of recurring cast members, is the only thing that connects any of these episodes together. Every episode is structured in that you could watch these episodes in any order and it'd work. There are two exceptions to this rule, two episodes where monsters from earlier episodes make a return, but even those episodes are so lightly connected that you could watch the return episodes and not miss a single thing. Being a show from 1966 heavily reliant on special effects, some episodes of Ultra Q can seem quaint or even goofy. You have episodes like the one about a dude raised by monkeys befriending a really, really big monkey. That's the boss hog right there. And there's also the one about a man-made synthetic life form hijacking a train and then blowing up the train so hard that he flew into space. It's a goofy show sometimes. But it also has an astounding ability to absorb the viewer into a mood, and that's definitely the goal of the show. Some episodes even begin with narration that inform the viewer that they are about to enter a world of unbalance, and that they will feel their eyes drawn into the screen, unable to escape. And there are a couple of good episodes that actually do a really great job of this. Let's talk about 3 in particular. Ultra Q has a pretty charming but kind of rocky start, so it kind of took a bit for an episode to come around and really stick with me. And the first episode to do that was episode 11, Balloonga. This is a really simple episode about a balloon-like creature that feeds off of energy, whether that be in the form of electric power or just plain fuel. There's an obvious and effective environmental message here, but what makes this episode straight up special is that mood I've been talking about. The episode is downright tense, and the soundtrack is constantly losing its damn mind.
先輩どんどん上がってるぞなんだ俺おい危ないからみんな下がれ下がるんだどうなってんのこれこっちが来たいぐらいだおい下がれ下がれおい下がるんだよみんな危ないぞゆりちゃん危ない危ない下がるんだ危ないゆりちゃん
The conflict in the episode is resolved when this very morose-looking doctor advises that a rocket be fired into the atmosphere to create an artificial sun as to lure the creature somewhere else. I love that the solution here is so slapdash. It doesn't actually guarantee finality at all. It's kind of like when your mom asks you to clean your room, and so you just shove everything under your bed and hope that's good enough. The episode's harsh and dark mood, in conjunction with this limp ending, kind of actually works together to paint humanity as unwise but also helpless in their solutions to big problems like this. It's realistic and cruel, and I kind of love it. Challenge from the year 2020 is straight up nuts, and the episode is centered around these disappearances that keep happening throughout the episode due to this strange goo. And the disappearances even include members of the main cast. I haven't really mentioned them yet in detail, but Yuriko, Jun, and Ippei are all really fun characters. They're characters without too much in the way of individuality, and they just kind of serve to be consistent vehicles for the plot to keep shit moving without much setup. They're important aside from convenient pacing, though, because these three really serve as your anchors to the world. They're a comforting presence in a show that could have just rested on killing its characters each episode to instill its doom. With these characters, Ultra Q finds other ways to instill that same doom, and leaving them around keeps you coming back, as the show never puts too fine a point on anything. With the disappearances of the main cast except Yuriko, the episode becomes really tense and exciting because it's one of the rare episodes in Ultra Q that genuinely keeps you guessing throughout the entire runtime. This alien called the Kemmerman is obviously behind all of this, but the resolution to the episode is fun enough. The episode ends with a bit of a weird, darkly funny moment, though, with Utagawa, this character that helps Yuriko out in the last leg of the episode, stepping into the remains of the cameraman and disappearing himself, never to be seen again. 2020 isn't one of the deepest episodes, but it's a genuine thrill ride and really stands out among the other episodes in the series. What's remarkable about it is its chaos, the way that it sends you through a whirlwind with no clear exit. It's very much like that intro. The final episode I'm going to talk about, and probably the most important one for this video, is episode 28, the final episode, Open Up. This episode is heavy, and it was originally never supposed to air, only doing so after it was found some months after the airing of the original 27 episodes of the show. Open Up is the episode of this show that sticks with me the most over time, and it's the one that continues to dig at me. It's as strange as any of the best Ultra Q episodes, and its mood is as strong as ever, but the topic is what pushes it over the top for me. This episode is pretty clearly about suicide and depression, and how ill-suited the world was to deal with mental illness in 1966. Some of it still rings true to this day. The episode begins with Jun and Yuriko finding a man unconscious in the road, presuming him to be drunk. He's startled awake by a passing train, and it awakens this flashback for him, where he envisions himself on a train with other passengers, including popular author Kenji Tomono. They are unable to escape the train, as it's heading to an alternate dimension where they can all find peace and happiness, free from the worries of the world they inhabit. There's a scene later on where Dr. Ichinotani, another recurring character, hypnotizes the man so that he can get some rest. And after some time, he is released to his family. He's obviously still not okay. His family and work life are shown to be in dismal shape, and he is unhappy and shaken in a very real way. The brief hypnotism clearly wasn't enough. Jun and Yuriko decide to investigate the issue some more and pay a visit to Tomono's house, where they find out that Tomono's been gone for years. And they only walk away with his final manuscript, where Tomono recounts his experience in becoming weary of the world and happening upon this alternate dimension free from worry. The man from the beginning of the episode never adjusts, and he just keeps stumbling towards the train that he keeps seeing. He's pleading for the train to open up and let him in. And that's it. That's the end of Ultra Q. I don't like to over-summarize things, but I just wanted to give you all the pieces of that episode up front so we can talk about how I feel about it, because, like I said before, it's never left me. I have personally struggled with major depression and even the very occasional brush with suicidal ideation. It's fucking rough, and it's a hard thing to live with. This episode never outright says the words depression or suicide, but the imagery present, the mood, the acting says everything loud and clear. The dead, apathetic look on the faces of the man and the author are incredibly familiar to me as pictures of people absolutely sick of their situation and feeling helpless to their world. The fantastical idea that they could escape just by being absent from the world around them. And the people around them, the friends and family, the series' resident problem solvers, they're just simply unable to understand and help. The presumed drunk and the author are led to a position mentally where they envision a world where they can get away, and that this is the only solution to their problems. The promised land that they envision is something a lot of people can see clearly as untrue and delusional, but these two? For these two, it's unbearably real. This is what I relate to as true unbalance. It almost feels too convenient that the final episode of this show is the best at conveying the message and the feeling of the show, but it's true to me at least. These 3 episodes really just spell out this show for me. The Ultra Q is relentlessly dark. It's a show about how humanity is so hilariously small in the universe, and that we're helpless to help ourselves at the end of the day. It's a picture of a chaotic and uncompromising world, and a world where every solution and happy ending is just a lucky break or freak coincidence. A world that is so unflinchingly cruel and confusing that you just kind of want to get away and leave the entire thing. This mood is something that really surprised me. I knew the show's influences going in, but I think I more or less expected for Ultra Q to be more of a fun adventure series, and in a way it is. A lot of this can be easily read as fun action to kids. There are a couple episodes that are just straight up adaptations of old folklore stories. But the more that I dug under the surface of this show to find what it all means for this video, I kind of came up with nothing. I mean, the show is so episodic, and the theming is so all over the place that it looks like a lot like that mess of colors in the intro. So, to reiterate, the deeper meaning that I found was that there was no meaning, and that the show was digging at some very real and dark anxieties of our society, and particularly Japanese society of the 60s, and, you know, it's asking questions like, where would we find ourselves if it turned out that we were not alone? And not only that, that the rest of the universe was out to get us. It's scary and kind of borders on xenophobic, but that's the show. And the final episode really spelled that out for me. People in this world are depressed and they're scared of everything, they just want out. And this is a really difficult thing to reconcile, reading this show as a complete work unto itself, because there's no further twist within these 28 episodes that lift up the soul or call for the viewer to reject the world's darkness. There's no answer, because the truth about this show, the thing that I said at the beginning, is that the show is only a question. However, every question does call for an answer, and just 1 week after the ending of Ultra Q, Tsuburaya Productions provided that answer. And it was Ultraman. Alright, this is the end card thing. So yeah, that one, I felt weird about this essay, and I still kind of do. I'm a little bit afraid of putting it out, to be completely honest, because it's, I don't know that I've built up that much of a convention out of the 3 episodes that I have, completed of Explode When Defeated so far, but this one definitely breaks everything. It is Ultra Q was a thing I decided to pick up because I think with Ultraman I want to dig at the center of it, because I think Ultraman is something that a lot of the larger Tokusatsu fanbase, at least the one that I interact with on the daily, that kind of talks about Kamen Rider and Super Sentai and stuff, they don't. There's not really a good understanding of Ultraman. And so I'd wanted to start with the beginning of the Ultra series, and Ultra Q gives a lot of really useful context for Ultraman. And Ultraman is obviously it is the next episode, and I'm gonna try and do it as quick as I can. Who knows? But it will come out, and I'm very excited about it, because I'm excited to kind of do this two-part thing. But I really, the more I was looking at Ultra Q, the more I dug into it. Like I said, it got really interesting, the place I went with it, in analyzing it and trying to read it and everything. And I don't know how it's going to read to longtime Ultra fans, or something. I really do love the show, and it is, like, really goofy a lot of the time, too. But, like, just the overarching mood is just very, very interesting to me. And again, this is all, you know, my own reading of things. None of this is meant to be universal at all. But I do recommend checking out the show. It's very interesting if you want a history of Tokusatsu a little bit. But other than that, follow me on Twitter at Anti-Laser if you want any kind of more current opinions about Tokusatsu stuff. You'll find them there, because I'm going to be doing a lot of old stuff for a while. And I've got a Patreon, so on top of subscribing to this channel and commenting and stuff and liking and all that, you can also help the channel in a new way by donating to the Patreon. I have $1 and $5 tiers, and there are different things you can do there. I've had the Patreon supporters thus far credited in the video as this was running, and you can be in that list as well. And you can also check out a newsletter that I've got running. So yeah, and our first goal is, if we get to $150 of Patreon earnings every month, which is a bit of a lofty goal, but if we get there, I will absolutely start providing a monthly podcast on Godzilla, which is something that I've been having a bit of a struggle trying to include into this show, and I think the best way is to actually do a podcast with my dear friend Wyatt. So, and he is at Wasp Ranger at Twitter. It's WAZP Ranger, and yeah. So if you want to do that, that'd be wonderful. This is going on long enough, but I love you guys. See you. Bye. Ultraman is coming soon. See ya.